What's up guys, Nick Wisdom with HeliDirect here to wrap up the Align TB40 build series here in the HeliDirect Heli Addiction Facebook group. You can find all the other videos right here in this group as well under the hashtag TB40 build. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's talk pros and cons before we get into anything else. So pros of the Align TB40. Price, price, and price is the most significant one. This is the top combo kit. It comes with the helicopter kit, main and tail blades, motor, Hobbywing 60 amp ESC, comes with a full set of Align micro cyclic servos, an Align mini tail servo, and a microbeast flybarless. Granted, I'm using a V-Bar Neo in mine. That's just personal preference for my flybarless controller. All that at a price that I don't think you can take any other 380 on the market, add all of the electronics to it, and come out ahead price-wise. So it's priced very competitively, much like the Align 470 that this is sort of the future replacement for. It is a great first helicopter to get into, both for value reasons, parts availability, and flight performance. It flies great. It's a great flying, 380. I've flown a lot of 200 size helicopters and a lot of 500 size helicopters. I haven't flown anything in the middle yet. This is my first and only 380, so I can't compare it to others in the market, but I can tell you it flies much bigger than its size indicates. I do a lot of backwards loops, and on a 200, on the backside of a backwards loop, it kind of falls out of the sky. Like it doesn't carve this graceful, smooth line. It kind of comes down and sort of falls the rest of the way until you catch it with the pitch. So this helicopter, I was getting nice smooth lines, and that really impressed me because I don't expect to see that type of performance until I get into the 500 size and above. So I was super, super happy to see that. Really beautiful hurricanes without any trouble, loops, flips, rolls, sort of light 3D and sport flying, which is my strengths. It did without any trouble. Everything I asked it to do, it did, and it did it very predictably, most importantly. Didn't fall out of maneuvers, it didn't have any odd behavior. Was super happy with it. First few flights, there was a little bit of a tail wag that I battled for a bit. Sometimes in these helicopters, they just need a few flights on them for the parts to sort of wear in. There's a lot of rotating parts, and after they go through a certain number of revolutions, they kind of bed in and things get better and better. And that was the case for me. So if you have an initial tail wag, don't freak out. Run a few packs through it, and then you'll find that the performance, I think, will get better and better, assuming everything mechanically for you is sound. I was very confident in the way I built the tail and the smoothness with which everything moved going into the first flight. So don't freak out if you see that. Things will improve. Let's go ahead and take a look under the hood while we're talking about pros of the helicopter. So very simple layout, super easy to wire. My wiring's not super neat on this helicopter because I didn't want it to be. Wasn't worried about neatness, I was worried about a practice helicopter I can fly, crash, repeat. Meaning if I put this thing in, a couple zip ties get cut, the ESC is free, I can replace any frames I need to, slap it back together and get it back in the air and work on progressing my skills. That to me is the beauty of a 380. It's a helicopter that has the performance closer to the larger size helicopters, but the replacement cost of parts much less so. So it's less expensive to crash. It's not free, but it's way less expensive than a bigger helicopter. The build itself, fairly straightforward. The manual, it's an Align black and white manual. We hold all helicopter manuals up against the SAB glossy full color manuals. It's not that, but it did the job. I didn't have any questions. The only thing that was a little weird was the ESC plate and the little battery latch plate were a little hard to see in the step where you're supposed to add them, so I actually had to go back and add them later. I missed that when I was staring at the drawing. No big deal. Do build your upper frames, and when you add the lower frames, do it over glass. Make sure you get everything nice and square. There are two shafts in this helicopter. This is a con for me. Small one, but it's a con. The primary and secondary shafts, or the main shaft and the secondary shaft. That's just a lot of gears. It's a lot of drag in the drivetrain. 380s don't auto super well, but this one is especially not going to auto super well. Once you shut that motor off, it's coming down. It has essentially zero hang time at that point. So no big deal. Keep the motor on, land under power, or cut your power just 6 inches off the ground. It'll float down and you'll be good to go. No big deal, just something of note. The main and tail rotors, both, the bearings were a little tight in there, because you have to disassemble everything. Thrust bearings, I had trouble getting out on both of them, so the tolerances was just a little tight for me. No big deal. I worked it out. I got grease, got it all packed back in there and rebuilt without any trouble. But minor niggle there, not a big deal. What else is a pro? Flight performance, cost, visibility. definitely another pro. So the canopy stands out really well, especially against green trees in the small park I was flying in as well. I do like the text on the boom. It is large, it's not small text, and it covers the whole length, and that just makes the boom much more visible to me. The white highlights on the tail fin as well helped with visibility for me. I do like the blades also with the prominent black and white on here show up very well in the air as well. So visibility is another pro. Cons, not a ton. Like I said, you know, the two shafts, a little drag in the drivetrain, no big deal there. I do wish the Hobby Wing ESC had telemetry available with V-Bar. It doesn't, so you're flying by a timer versus battery capacity, but that's more a flaw. I don't know that anyone makes a 60 amp that works with the V-Bar and gives you full telemetry in that way, other than just voltage. While we're on the subject of cons, a couple of minor ones. The canopy, and I've heard this from a couple of TB40 owners, you tend to get a little bit of wear and chipping right here in this corner. So if you want to proactively reinforce underneath it, you can. Be careful when you're fitting it around. Try not to pry these two sides of the canopy open any more than you need to, and that will help prolong it as well. Not a big deal there though at all. All right, with that, I'm gonna say I'm super happy with this helicopter. No major complaints from me. All the cons I have are really minor, honestly. It's a great performing 380. It comes in at a fantastic value and it flies great. Flight performance wise, I flew it at a variety of RPMs with a variety of battery packs. The lowest RPM I felt good about it was 2000 RPM. That'll be great if you're a beginner learning your upright orientation, so just basic hovering, maybe some light circuits kind of stuff at 2000 RPM. The sweet spot for me for both beginners and intermediates is going to be 2400 RPM. At that head speed, it did anything I asked it to without any trouble. Flew fantastic, you know, inverted, upright, flips, rolls, etc. Light 3D, 2400 RPM and an 1800 milliamp battery pack gave me 5 minutes of flight on a 2200. Gave me 7.5 minutes of flight. Down at 2000 RPM, you could take that to 9 minutes on a 2200 and over 7 on an 1800 while you're learning your upright orientations, which is great. Plenty of flight time. At 3000 RPM, you're going to get much less battery time, but this thing rips at 3000 RPM. The manual states 3100 RPM is really the maximum you should take the helicopter to, and that doesn't surprise me at all. At 3000, it's an animal. It'll do anything you want it to do, and it'll do it quickly. So enjoy that. We'll try and get a full-length flight video from someone a little bit more exciting to watch than me at some point in the future as well. With that, thanks for watching. My name's Nick Wisdom, and if you're wondering what that logo is up there, shameless plug for my podcast. Myself, Alex Dean, Brian Birdsong, and Kenny Hutton work real hard on the Rotor Revolution RC podcast. Go ahead and check us out. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms and give us a listen. With that, highly recommend the Align TB40. You can't go wrong in the 380 size with this helicopter. Thanks for watching.
Heli Direct!